From unsolved mysteries to unexplained phenomena, from comedy gold to relationship fails, Amazon Music's got the most ad-free top podcasts, included with Prime. Because the only thing that should interrupt your listening is, well, nothing. Download the Amazon Music app today.
How do we, the people, begin to regain control of our freedom? Stay tuned and find out.
Welcome. Okay, here's the question. You serious? How are we dark horses? You know, the ones everyone is betting against, the ones they don't expect to win, place, or even show on the track, and they'll even laugh on us when we talk about trying. How do we show the world our greatness and triumph? Come on. Well, that's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. This is The Dark Horse Entrepreneur. My name is Tracy Brinkman.
And push it out. What is up, my Dark Horse friends and family? Welcome back to your weekly dose of Get Involved Learning. I'm your Dark Horse host, Tracy Brinkman, and you, well, that, my friends, is infinitely more important. You are a driven entrepreneur or a business owner, or perhaps you're just one in the making. Either way, you're here because you're ready to start, restart, kickstart, and just start leveling up with some great marketing, personal, or business tips and results in order to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. Man, I say this every single time when I have an amazing guest on here, but we have a big episode today. Today, Justin Schmidtka. Boy, my tongue just tripped over my eye teeth. I'm still recovering from a wicked cold, so please excuse me if I'm sounding a little gravelly. Let's try that again. Big episode today. Justin Schmidtka is going to be sharing a wealth of information about why you, I'm talking to you right now as you're listening, am echoing in your ears, you're driving down the road, you're walking on your treadmill. Why you, the business owner, or you as average Joe and Jane American, should be getting involved in what's going on in your state and local government. Yeah, I want you to ring this one true. You know, so much do I want this to ring true that I'm not even going to tease next week's episode guest because I want you focused on what's going on in this episode. Why? Because it's just that damn important. Now, as per usual, we are still chock full of business and personal and marketing, GOLD, spilling from every corner of the Dark Horse Entrepreneur HQ. So let's get to the starting gates and go. All right, my Dark Horse friends and family. Today's guest is Justin Schmidtka. Now, he's the host and founder of the Badger State Resistance podcast. You're going to want to check that out, right? He's also a former Marine. I believe it was from 2006 to 2010 where he served our great country. And now, most recently, he has stepped up to become a candidate for Secretary of State for this great state of Wisconsin. And me and my family have been lucky enough to meet Justin at a number of rallies, and you'll hear us speak about that a little bit. And normally this is the point where I would say, hey, Justin, welcome to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur. This is one of those stumble moments you have as a podcaster, right? Where you're like, you're so excited to have someone on your show, and you get them on and you start that conversation and they start telling their story. And you're like, oh shit, I forgot to press the record button. And then you have to back up and restart, which is what happened right here. So rather than to go through the whole spiel from the very beginning, I asked Justin to start from the beginning of telling his story. So let's get to that right now.
Beautiful. Okay.
Right, go for it.
So this all started on, November 3rd, 2020, the night that the most infamous election in our history took place. And my dad and my wife and I, we sat and we stayed up very late until about 2 o'clock in the morning when we started hearing that they're going to be shutting down a lot of the stuff, or a lot of the polls that, they're going to continue the next day. We had seen that Georgia and Fulton County, I believe it was, where they had the water main break, 5 blocks down. And, I looked at my dad and I was like, I got a bad feeling. I got a terrible feeling. What it really came down to, Donald Trump, we know, was the most electrifying president in U.S. history. Mm-hmm. He is right up there with George Washington. He's right up there with Abraham Lincoln, and Ronald Reagan. But I would say controversy, whatever. People love to be angry about the mean tweets. So I had a bad feeling. And I knew that the Democrats were going to play some games. Well, lo and behold, we start finding out the games were being played, and we know about the ballot harvesting that happened here in Wisconsin. And I just looked at my dad. He said, Dad, I was like, I'm just going to start a podcast. That's it. If I can reach just 10 people who will listen to me, and those 10 people will tell one other person, and those people will tell one other person, maybe we can get something going here.
Right.
And we have got to get very smart about who we elect. Donald Trump was a president for the people, by the people. And we know that the right really did not want him in 2016. They did everything they could to fight. So as I moved into my journey of developing the podcast and meeting people such as yourself and Jonathan and other people, I started to realize just how corrupt our politics here in Wisconsin really is, and how bad the GOP, unfortunately, the people that we trust, to really give us the option of who we want. And I started figuring out that we have been played as a society. So, excuse me, when I really started pushing that message, I started to get the pushback from the GOP, and like, oh my goodness, you can't expose this, or but they didn't exactly say you can't expose this. They just, well, this is not the right message. This is not the right thing. So it only encouraged me to go further with it. And with Jonathan Wickman, who is running for governor, and others, David King, lieutenant governor, Kyle Hughes, lieutenant governor, other patriots in the state, we really started pushing. Well, it got to a point where the election integrity, which is one of my biggest issues that I am running on as a candidate, and one of the primary focuses and founding reasons of Badger State Resistance podcast, nothing was being done. We started getting, the Gableman stuff, and it's like, really, this is not an audit. This is an investigation. This is a way for Robin Vos and the rhinos in the Assembly and the Senate to say, well, hold on, folks, we're doing something about it. Well, then we hear about the LAB.
There we go. There we go.
Were you able to hear?
I was able to hear you right up to the LA event.
Oh, the LAB audit. So the LAB audit, and I had confronted, Senator Larson, I forget which one it was, Senator LeMahieu, about the LAB audit, and he just lied right to my face, and at a GOP booth at the Calumet County Fair. So at the end of the day, what it really came down to is I had to do more than just Badger State Resistance. So I decided, you know what? I talked with Jonathan, I talked with my wife, I talked with my son, who's 13. I have another one that's 2. I love to talk to him, but he gives me all kinds of jargon. in my family. And I said, you know what? This is not enough. We have got to get to a point where the elected officials are the ones that are held accountable. So my whole message is we need to remove government bureaucratic offices out of Wisconsin, which pretty much both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party together have created just an enormous amount of government bureaucrat offices, including the Wisconsin Election Commission, the LAB, the LRB, and the list goes on, and took away everything from the Secretary of State. So essentially they're a stamper. They're a professional stamper.
Right.
So no, the Secretary of State needs to be the state auditor. The Secretary of State needs to hold the elections. Why is this important? Because then the people have the power. If the Secretary of State chooses to not listen to the people, especially in a time when we're calling for an investigation or there's fraud that may have happened within the Secretary's office, well, the people can recall because it is an executive level branch of the state government.
So we can go out there and say, you know what, you're doing a suck job. We're just going to take you out of there.
Exactly. Either you don't reelect the individual that's there, you recall them, or if it's illegal enough and the state assembly and Senate feel that there's enough evidence, they can impeach. So there's 3 ways to to have control. And again, the assembly, the state assembly, these individuals represent a district within the state, and they should be listening to the people. Overwhelming, the overwhelming majority within. They should be hosting town halls on a monthly basis and talking to the constituents. Same with the state senators, who have usually 3 assembly districts underneath them, is what I've kind of seen as the pattern here in Wisconsin. And this is why we need government to start working for the people. This has been the whole message of my campaign, and why I work well with people like Jonathan Wickman and Kyle Hughes and David King and others.
And we've had Jonathan Wickman on this show, as a matter of fact, and I'm a big, obviously you already know this, I'm a big fan of Jonathan and been supporting him from day one, this is actually how I met you, was one of his events. I was like, oh my God, here we go. But I think why is it, do you think, I don't want to say put corruption aside here for a second, but why is it, do you think they've been able to get their hooks in so deep? Is it because we as a society have just been, okay, you guys take care of that, we elected you, now I don't have to worry about it?
Well, I think human nature is most people believe that people have good intentions. Mm-hmm. There's always we call them the 1%, in the military or on the fire department. When I was a paid on call firefighter, there's always 1%. But overwhelmingly, people you want to believe are good. And unfortunately, the 1%, because we as a society just didn't focus and actually really pay attention to what was going on until Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. We became complacent, and that 1% was able to dig their claws in and figure out how to take their control or their elected position and actually turn it into actual control. That is why we are seeing mass mandates and why we're seeing vaccine mandates and all these other mandates throughout the country. This is exactly it's we have to admit that we got complacent. So a lot of this is our fault.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you with that. That's what I was sharing with you when we first started this, was one of the messages I've been trying to push out to folks, the entrepreneurs that are out there. And here's the thing for me, when it comes to entrepreneurship, the small business owner, right? What are we, 40% of the gross national profit? We're the big chunk. And I think for me, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist here, one of the things they tried to chip away at last year by shutting all the small businesses down was just that fact. If we start taking away all the power that the small business owners have, but they're not using yet, then they actually gain that power as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We are absolutely seeing corporate tyranny, especially and they used a virus to do this. Mm-hmm. Eric Toney, who's running for attorney general, talks about this all the time, that he has a very close friend. And I know people, and I'm sure you know people, that had to shut their businesses down because of COVID. But why was Walmart allowed to be open?
Right.
Because they had groceries, because they had diapers. Well, so do a lot of small, mom and pop pharmacies or whatever the business may be. Why did the government get to dictate who was essential and who wasn't essential?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everybody's essential because everybody's got to pay their bills.
100%. And I saw, my wife gave me this really cool letter. There's I don't want to call them an association, but they're a group of 400 plus businesses here in Wisconsin that have stood up and said, that's it, we're done. We're tired of this. We're keeping our business owners. We're not forcing our employees to take shots and wear masks and all this other nonsense. I think that if more folks out there said, you know what, I'm doing that too, then we the people could start regaining the power and shake our fingers at the politicians and say, you know what, I'm not voting you in next year because you didn't stand up against this or stand up for me and your constituents when all this noise went down.
I want to point out that Robin Vos and many of the Republicans in the state, assembly and Senate, they were silent for 240 days plus when this was all going down. And when, at a time when we need real leadership, this is exactly why when we talk about Jonathan Wickman and even, myself, who's running for Secretary of state, why it is so important that the people become so informed on who is running for these positions. You are going to see many races throughout the state where Republican incumbents who have been in the state assembly, state senate for 4, 6, 20 years, they're going to get primaried. And that is a wonderful thing. I actually think that we should be primarying people more often to keep people in check, with the state government. I mean, that's a lot of power. I mean, 99 individuals in the state assembly literally control 5.5 million people in what we do here in Wisconsin. So
that's crazy.
It is. And so I'll let you jump in there.
No. I was just saying that's great. I mean, I guess one of the things I want to, and I know you are far more politically adept than I, but so help me share with those folks that are listening out there, what can they, the individual voter, the individual businessman, do to help right the ship, I guess is the best way to say it?
Sure. Absolutely. So one of the most important things that we need to do as individuals, and a lot of people get upset with me. I actually got chewed out at a rally for this, is you got to join your county party. You have to become a member of the Republican Party. And here's why. Because we have a primary election, but before the primary election, what happens is there is a nomination process, okay, where each county gets a certain amount of delegates, and then those delegates go to, this year they're going to be in Madison, or next year I should say, in Madison, and together they're going to vote on who they feel Wisconsin should have for governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, treasurer, and so on, statewide candidates. So that's where we get the selected versus the elected, because this is something that has not come to light until this year. So by joining your party, demanding or having a conversation with the chairman, demanding in some cases, because some of them are trying to fight this whole process, that you become a delegate. There is a class that you have to do. I don't believe it costs anything. And if it does, I'm sure it's minor. Right. I think it takes up 4 hours of your time. You get to have a voice in the state convention. And there's a lot more than just selecting, the candidates and who the party is going to back. Okay. You actually can talk policy and things that are going to get pushed, so that the state party wants to see happen. So there's a lot of benefit to doing that.
You're now listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
It gives you a louder voice than just going to the polls on election day and circling the little bubble for who you choose. Now, again, unfortunately, the Republican Party does this, and this is, again, back to selected, not elected. I touch on this all the time because people have got to understand that we, the people, should be actually demanding the Republican Party of Wisconsin to move the primary election up to probably April, right around the time of, like the Democrats do. And then whoever wins the primary should get the endorsement of the Republican Party, not the other way around. Get the people's voice.
Nice. I know my family and I, we went to that that convention this year, and it was up in the Dells. And, you got to go through the vetting process. We weren't delegates or anything yet. We just wanted to go and see what it was all about, right? Be in there to see what they were doing. And luckily, we were surprisingly aligned with a lot of the proposals that were being voted in and a lot of the things that were going on. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. But to your point about the delegates, of course, the room we were in, supposedly all the delegates from the entire state of Wisconsin should have been in that room. There's no way, because I know I believe it's Washington County, there's like 244 delegates. Don't quote me on that.
Sure.
But
Brown like 283 or 84 itself.
There was probably 500 people in the entire room. Right. So to your point, that's the very thing you're saying there. This small subset of people are using their voice to control the things that they think their constituents need or don't need, whether they've engaged their constituents or not.
Right. And becoming a delegate, you should take the time to have the conversations with your neighbors, the family that live within your counting, or hosting a Patriot event, and converse with the people that are within your community, who you like, invite candidates to come and speak to you and figure out what they are all about. Look into the past, of specific.
Uh-oh, you froze on me. You still with me? Hold on a second. I see you there. If you can hear me, Justin, I can't hear you. You have froze on this end. There you go.
There. Okay. What part did I
you were saying speak to specific
candidates, and one of the biggest things that we need to do is I want to build on the part where the delegates. So if let's just say Brown County's got 200 delegates, okay, yeah, and there's only 4 people that are delegates for Brown County, they get 50 votes apiece.
Mm-hmm.
That should be filled with 200 people. Again, talking to the community, hosting events, encouraging the party to bring every candidate to the party to speak to the people. This is how we get proper representation.
100%. And I've actually already started that process that you were laying out there. We joined the party. It's like a whopping $30, right? So joined the party, and I raised my hand and said, look, I want to be a delegate. And I'm getting some resistance, man. I'm just gonna put it out there, right? Don't expect them to sign up and go, hey, yeah, come on in. You could be one of the boys right away, because they're giving resistance. I'm chipping away at them. I'm going to all the different events, meeting the different folks, and showing that I'm engaged. So let me in the door, y'all. But I'm not sure it's going to happen yet, but I'm going to keep chugging away to get in that door.
Well, the other benefit of joining the party and becoming very active within your community or your county, I should say, is when elections do come up, if you say a particular county, Washington County, wants to continue to give you resistance, if there's 200 of you that join, well, then you can replace the chairman in the next election so that we can start to move these people out. And that's a big thing that we have to get, is remove a lot of the chairman within the county. I know that I could tell you just offhand, Pierce County and O'Connell County's chairwomen, I should say, both got to go. They're very establishment. They have no interest in all the candidates. They've made their decision. Milwaukee County for governor, they flat out told one of the governor candidates, not Jonathan Wickman, actually had a conversation with another one today. Besides, it wasn't Rebecca, it wasn't Jonathan. They flat out told him, we're not interested in anybody. Rebecca's got this county locked up. Done.
That's crazy. It's funny. And that's one of the things I've always tried to do is, as I was considering somebody for whatever election was going on, is, try to read a little bit about them. And this year I've actually gotten more involved because of all the zaniness we've all gone through, and actually go and meet folks and chat with them and pick their brains and try and have a tough question. And I've been enjoying going to the events, and it's helped me set my mind going, okay, I'm very comfortable with this person. I'm not so sure about that one. Let me ask some more questions. I even got to the point where I was going to be open enough, and the current party favorite, Rebecca, we've named the name, right? She was speaking here locally. So I thought, all right, let's go check her out. Open-minded. I went in resistant. I'm going to say I went in not liking her, period. End of story right there. Every email I've ever gotten from her is like, please give me money, please give me money. The rest of it's all like schmoozy. But I sat down and listened to her, and I walked out of there pissed off. I was literally mad. I was hot under the collar because she talked about herself. That's it the whole time. It wasn't about, here's how I'm going to fix things. She blew a little bit of smoke and mirrors around, but there were no steps. When I've listened to you, it's like, here's what I want to do. This, that, A, B, C, right? I want to pull back this. I'm going to get rid of this committee over here, bring the power back to the Secretary of State's desk. Jonathan he walks some simple steps through one of the things he wants to do. He wants to do that, right? Her, it was all like smoke and mirrors. And I was like, okay, you're not saying shit here to me. And it's really pissing me off.
One of the biggest things, and this is my to the people, to your listeners. So when we look at people's pasts, okay, and what I want people to focus on is don't look at somebody for maybe making a stupid mistake in the past, like in their personal life,
Right.
and they have a bankruptcy, or maybe they had some debts, whatever that is. Okay. But when we look at these people, especially people that are career politicians, and Rebecca Clayfish spent 2 terms as a lieutenant governor and lost, didn't challenge the election, which there is pretty clear fraud in the 2018 governor's race. So we had the ballot drops in the middle of the night in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Lost in some van in a warehouse. Oh, we just found them, and it's all in favor of Tony Evers. But let's just look at right now the Kyle Rittenhouse situation's going on here, and it's emotional. You could clearly tell that the poor kid's got PTSD like no other. He broke down in the courtroom today trying to go through the story. This is very common among people that have gone through very post-traumatic, especially killing somebody. And I actually believe that he was in self-defense. The video is pretty evident of that. But Tony Evers jumped to conclusion right away. And this is going to go back to Rebecca. Tony Evers immediately condemned the police officers, and immediately, instead of trying to, calm the rioting, call the National Guard, get people there to just get this stopped in Kenosha, to keep Kenosha from completely burning down. He was out there and fueled the fire. Rebecca Clayfish is actually out there saying how she was so scared. Her daughters and her were scared. They from what it looked like, it looks really bad. A police officer shooting a man 7 times in the back. That is taking the same stance with different words that Tony Evers.
Sure.
She jumped and judged to the whole thing. Okay. This is the kind of stuff that people need to know when they're looking at a governor candidate. That right there tells me that if we ever end up, God forbid, we ever end up with another, riot, especially, anything like what happened in Kenosha, anywhere in Wisconsin, she is not ready to be the leader that we would need here in Wisconsin to stop this. So to your point of, she's very disingenuous, and many others throughout the state. I'm telling you, there are multiple lieutenant governor candidates, secretary of state candidates, other candidates. It's the career politician mentality, and it does anger you, especially knowing what we know now about everything.
Oh my gosh. So true. So very true. All right. I want to be mindful of your time, and I definitely appreciate you coming on here and hanging out a bit. Yeah. And I want folks, if they want to check out more about Justin, either the Badger State Resistance podcast and some of the excellent content you have there. And I say that again, excellent content. Or if they want to learn more about you as the Secretary of State candidate, and they want to check you out and say, all right, I want to vibe with this guy. Where are we going to send them to?
So for Badger State Resistance, you can follow us on Facebook, Badger State Resistance. Now there's a group, which is going to have the Gunderson yellow flag on there. But then there's the Badger State Resistance logo, which is white and black, and it's got a badger, with the 13 stars around it, and then rifles for stripes. That is the page. You can also go to badgerstateresistance.com. The podcasts are up there for you to listen to. And then events that are Badger State hosted events are going to be there. As far as my campaign goes, if you go to justinforwi.com, you can follow my campaign there, or Schmidtka for Secretary of State on Facebook. You'll see, if you go to one, you'll find the other as far as social media goes.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm going to make sure we get those links down there so people can just click right through and check you out. Any final words of wisdom you want to leave? Words of wisdom. That's good speaking right there. Any final words of wisdom you'd like to leave our listeners with? Absolutely.
So the biggest thing is we're at a time now where we have to be vigilant. We have to be in the know. This is the final election, in my personal opinion, if we don't get it right. This election is going to decide if America is going to go down a full communistic agenda, and we are going to become, basically the USSR, or we are going to become it's going to be 1776 reborn. Mm-hmm. So I encourage you to look at every single candidate. I encourage you to look at their past. When it comes to me, what I'm going to tell you, my sole goal as a candidate for Secretary of State is election integrity, because without election integrity, nothing else matters. And we need people to be held accountable. I want to eliminate 100% the Wisconsin Election Commission. Folks, if you are truly wanting to get involved, mayors, county supervisors, city council, school board, they are just as important, if not and more important than even the governors of each state. We need to get back to a bottom-up mentality when it comes to running government, not a top-down.
100%. I was, so I was just thinking about that earlier as we were chatting, is that there's a number of positions around here, alderman and treasurer, your city planning committees, your school boards, like you mentioned. I mean, there's a whole host of them that need good patriots to step in and fill the shoes of those folks that have been picking away at this country for quite some time. I would agree with you 100%.
The last thing I want to say about all of it too is don't feel that you need a college degree or that you need to have grown up in the, in the yacht clubs. You don't need to. Average Americans need to take these positions over. And one of the biggest positions that we need people to start looking into are the county clerks, county and city clerks.
Fire. Justin, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom. I'm going to make sure, again, like I said, that we get this out to everybody and they have those links to check you out right away.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you and the family at future events.
You know you will.
All right, have a good one.
All right. And there you have it. My man, Justin Schmidtka, dropping some gubernatorial knowledge bombs. Now, he's not running for governor, but he's certainly running for the great Secretary of State here in Wisconsin. So if you are a voter here in Wisconsin, please go check him out. The links to his websites will be down in the show notes. And if you're not a citizen, a voting citizen here in Wisconsin, check out whoever's running for the races in your state. Get involved. I think there are so many reasons why we should be getting involved. And when I say we, I mean you and me, as average Joe citizens, as business owners, as just free Americans. With all the craziness that's been going on, we need to step back in and say, whoa, hold the freaking boat here, ladies and gentlemen. You're not George Washington. You are not Thomas Jefferson. You're not Alexander Hamilton. You don't know what the hell you're talking about right at this point. You are here to serve us, the American people. Now, and if you're listening to us from overseas, I think you need to get involved in whatever government process you're able to get involved in. There's so many varied processes out there. Step in. There are a number of reasons. I mean, you think about it. The things that are going on in these assemblies, in these houses, even in your local races, right? Yeah, you heard Justin talked about getting involved in your local race, your school board. What are the things they're voting in? What are they teaching your children? What are they making sure your children are subscribing to or being taught every single day? I think it's one of the number one reasons that you'll want to get involved in whatever's going on in your community, in your local, in your county, in your state races, is the fact that it affects your day-to-day life. This past year or two has been more proof than that than anything else. It affects your personal finances. Yeah, think about it, right? Whatever's going on, are they voting in levies? Are they voting in referendums? Things that are going to affect your tax dollars? Or have they already voted it in and you're like, I'm okay with paying that referendum. I just want to make sure it's going to the right place. Well, then you got to get involved. Otherwise, this stuff is going to fly right under the radar. And it does. It just flies right under by whatever small percent of the body of voters that are out there. It allows you to be heard, right? I mean, so often I hear people bitching and whining and moaning and complaining. And here's the thing for me. You got every right to bitch and whine and moan and complain. My dad fought for that right. I fought for that right. And so many other soldiers ad infinitum across the years have fought for you to have that right. So go ahead, bitch, moan and gripe. But you know what? I'm not sure I'm going to listen to you unless you're getting involved. You want to be heard? Man, get out there and talk to the candidates. Get out there and email and phone calls your local governing bodies. Go to a a local planning commission meeting, go to your local mayor's meeting, whatever town halls that are happening, whatever meetings that you are allowed to go, right? Here not too long ago, they were trying to put in some mining, probably a mile, maybe 2 miles from my house, maybe even closer to that, to build community. Mining, hello. I live in rural Wisconsin and love the trees and the farmland. Don't be digging up all and gutting our natural resources around here. So you can be sure my family and I were there to hear what was going on and listen to the rest of our community speak up with their voices. I think another reason you want to get involved is you learn about the government's ways and spending habits. And if you're okay with them, cool. Then you're like, all right, I'm good with that. The people I voted in or the people that are in charge now are doing a good job, and you keep voting them in. If you don't like it, it's your opportunity to have your voice heard or have them recalled or make sure they're not voted in next time around. The power is in your hand. You, Jane American, you, Joe Schmo American, right? You have the power of the vote. You also get to learn about the legislative processes, the gubernatorial processes that are out there. And if you don't like them, guess what? There are ways, there are processes and systems in place to say, you know what? We don't like that. Let's get that put up for debate. Let's get that turned into an action, right? Let's bring the power back where the power belongs, with the people. The first 3 words, we the people, is how it starts, right? Well, that's where it ends too. Here's what's happened. It's my personal opinion, and if you disagree, I welcome your input. Tracy@darkhorseschooling.com, or go down to the bottom of this podcast and drop your thoughts into the comments below, right? Agree, disagree, I don't care. Let's bring them all out. Here's the thing. I think we, as Americans, have just sat back and said, okay, well, I voted in my favorite person, whatever letter next to their name is that you align with, the D, the R, the I, or whatever other letter it might be. You're like, okay, that's the person for me. Click. Maybe you did research. Maybe you didn't do research. And then you thought, okay, my job's done. No, it's not. You are the ones that have to hold them accountable. What do you mean I have to hold them accountable, Tracy? Yeah, you. If they're not doing what you voted them into office to do, then you get them out. You have them recalled. You have them impeached. Whatever it is, whatever tools that are at your disposal to alter their behavior, you need to do that. And because we've become so complacent, we haven't been doing that. And look what's happened. Things have just gone hog wild and gone completely insane. And I'm not just talking about over the past couple of years. I mean, past couple of decades. People have reigned crazy. But as you get involved, you'll start seeing not how this democracy works. Let's be completely clear here. How this republic works, or at least how it should work, right? And you'll find that when you place your voice in, and your partner's voice in, and your friend's voice in, and even your opponent's voice into the ring, the more diverse perspectives that you have in our system that we have in this Republic of the United States, the more balanced the system will be. And that's what we want. We don't want this thing swinging way over on the extreme right. We don't want it swinging way over on the extreme left. No. We don't want either one of those. We want something right there in the middle where everyone's getting some of what they need, a little of what they want, right? And that creates that balance. It's not it's not, you got to be old Mike like Tracy and that's all there is to it. No, it's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I understand that there are things that maybe I believe that you don't. And maybe you believe that I don't. Okay, well, that's fine. You're here. We can believe it together. We can find a way to work together where we both get what we want to be happy in our lives. I think another great reason to get involved is the networking, right? I have watched my daughter just do this amazing networking process. She has multiple gubernatorial names in her phone. She got to meet a retired Supreme Court justice from here in Wisconsin just the other day at a meeting that we were at. And he just happened to be on the board of the school she was going to. So she's just started talking to him. And ladies and gentlemen, she's 18 and she's already building this, well, we used to call it a Rolodex, right? This network of people that when the time comes and she has a question or has an opportunity and wants to pose it to them or has a need and can reach out to them and say, hey, can you help me with this? She's already building that network now. And it's just by going and getting involved in something she already believes in. Huge benefit. There's so many benefits in getting involved. The community ownership. You start feeling more and more a part of the community that you live in. And here's what happens. When you start feeling more and more a part of it, you start taking a larger ownership in it, right? You start sounding your voice off more, maybe even sounding off the voice of your neighbor who's not quite as boisterous as you are. Right? You start helping decentralize the very systems that are crippling some of the republic's processes, turning it into, hey, we're a democracy. Not really, right? We're a republic, okay? You start finding that there are power in numbers. Yeah, and there are. And there are far more numbers out there that have been the silent majority for way too long. Maybe it's you. And if it is you, all right, take your silent voice and turn it into a meek voice. Take your meek voice and turn it into a regular voice. Take your regular voice and start shouting from the rooftops. Stop shouting from the rooftops and start standing on the mountain and lead those that you love and care for along with you. And when you do that, you can start showcasing your skills. Whatever it might be, whatever your business acumen is. Maybe it's marketing, accounting, speaking, advertising. All right. As you're starting to network with these folks, right? Starting to gain these number of people, showing your importance to the community and how the community is important to you. Well, then people are going to start coming to you and knocking on your door going, hey, can you help me with my business, with your marketing or your accounting, your speaking, right? Volunteer to help them, right? Again, now, if you help them with your skill set, maybe that can in turn teach you a whole new set of skills. Now you can grow at the same time. So, and I could go on and on. I've got a whole long laundry list of these here, but I just wanted to start fueling your head here with all the reasons beyond who becomes governor or who becomes Secretary of State, Justice Schmidtka, who becomes governor, like I said, Jonathan Wickman, who becomes, the lieutenant governor, David King. Anyway, my little subliminal messaging there for you. Go out, meet the candidates, right? If you like them, vote for them. If you don't like them, keep meeting them until you find the ones you like. I even advise you to go one step further and go listen to the candidate you're not quite sure about, right? Because they may either prove your point of view or turn you around, right? Give them the opportunity to win you over. Maybe they can. In my case, they didn't. We went and listened to one of the local gubernatorial candidates here and were completely turned off. I actually walked away upset, as I mentioned. So get out there, get involved at whatever level you're willing to get involved in, and then maybe push yourself just a little bit further out of your comfort zone and get involved a little bit deeper. All right, I've babbled on long enough here. With that, my friends, I'm going to leave you as I always do. Think successfully and take action.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in.
Check us out at www.darkhorseschooling.com.
All right.
My name is Tracy Brinkman.